Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Hardly Millennial podcast, where we are young, dumb, and full of
opinions.
Opinions, ladies and gentlemen. As always, I am your host, Adam Hansen, and across from me is your other host,
I'm Matthew Lynn. What's going on, guys?
Matthew Lynn, ladies and gentlemen. So today we are just going to talk about a few different things, actually.
I found a post.
Yeah, we found a post.
I found a post of this guy who wrote down some pretty interesting questions, actually. I found it in a Facebook rabbit hole. And they're questions that I wanted to ask Adam last night, just sitting there on the couch. And we looked at each other, and Adam was like, stop. We'll make it a podcast. And here we are. We made it a podcast, guys.
Here we are, guys. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it.
Let's jump right in. So the first question here seems a little bit shallow, but
Okay.
I've thought about it, and I think I understand how to make it a little deeper. Okay, so it goes like this. It's pretty simple. Should governments make laws to protect people from hurting themselves?
Okay.
Okay, so what's the first thing you think of when you hear that? Like, how do you interpret that?
Honestly, the first thing that comes to my mind is the argument about gun control right now.
Oh,
That's literally
interesting.
the
I didn't
first
think
thing.
about that.
Yeah, that's the first thing. What was the first thing that came to your mind in regards to that?
Well, the very first thing that came to my mind is like, so you're literally asking, should the government make suicide illegal? Okay. And I'm thinking like, well, there's no point in that because by the time you find out that they're guilty of committing the crime, they're gone. So what's the point of doing that?
Well, I think like written down suicide is illegal. I think it's actually written somewhere that suicide is illegal.
That's very silly
So
because
Well, yeah,
can't
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. I mean, you don't get jail time for it or anything, but if there's like, so if like you attempt a suicide, right, and you fail for whatever reason, you know, and somebody catches you, or the gun doesn't kill you, whatever it is, the fall doesn't kill you. I mean, I know they'll put you in basically a mental ward for a while. But I think it's actually written down that suicide is illegal. That's why assisted suicides are also. But yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I agree with you. I don't know why it's a thing. But
by the time you're like, oh, hey, he's done.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's what the question is asking, actually. I think what it's supposed to be asking is things like the gun control you talked about. And then I thought about, like, where they say, like, you can't go into this area because there's high voltage. You know what I mean? Like, there's a bunch of power lines here, so it's illegal to go there.
Right.
So, like, should they be able to tell you can't do something only because it's dangerous to you? Or should you get to make the own choice of, I want to do this even though it's dangerous?
Well, in kind of a strange way, you do still have the choice to do something or not. So, like, for example, you were talking about the like don't enter high voltage thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, really what that is I mean, you could put up no trespassing too if you want and put up all the warnings you want, but if somebody's really going to want to get in there to into this high voltage area, and if they get shocked, you know, to the point of critical or not dead, well, you have the warnings in front of you. You know what I mean? So it's like, regardless whether you put up signs or not, or make something wrong or not,
Okay,
people
how
are
about
still going to
this?
do it.
Do you think you should be allowed, if we are in a war, if America's in a war, like in Iraq, that deal, you remember that, should you be allowed to go over with whatever weapon you want and just start fighting in the war? Are you allowed to do that? Because legally, you're not allowed to do that. That's illegal. Even if you're fighting for the Americans, they'll be like, no, they'll arrest you. You can't do that. Should you be allowed to make the choice?
I don't think so.
Nah.
No, because you have this giant, you know, group that is the military that has their own military strategy of how they're handling things over there.
Yeah, but I'm a free American.
I know,
If I want to grab my hunting rifle and go to Iraq, why shouldn't I be allowed to do that?
Well, I mean, really,
I agree with you, by the way.
Yeah, I figured as much. I'd be very surprised if you didn't. But I mean, but again, it goes with that thing of like, well, technically, if you wanted to, I'm sure you could find a way to do that, but you're going to have to suffer the repercussions of going in there and just shooting at, you know, the opposition in Iraq.
I
You know?
don't know. There's just certain things where it's only a law because of safety.
Right.
It has nothing to do with actually building anything better or making anything run smoother. It's solely for safety.
I mean, what would that be called? Like, how would the military take action on somebody who went over there and let's say, like, showed up on a battlefield and then just all of a sudden started, like, helping, the Americans, shoot the opposition, and then, like, I'm assuming at first they're just gonna let him do his thing, right? Everyone's gonna be a little busy, but afterwards, what happens? They're like, thanks, but
I think they would literally arrest you.
Yeah,
I think you would get arrested.
I mean,
if you weren't mistaken for an enemy in the meantime,
right?
Because you're not really going to be in like a uniform,
right? Exactly.
You're just a random combatant.
Some random guy with a Metallica shirt just running out of the field with a fucking AK.
I don't see it going very well.
I don't either. But
now, if you have like 35 guys, if you have like the Metallica squad, now that's a little different. I don't know. I have no idea how they would handle that.
I guess it would all just depend of like, did the squad save our asses or did they make something worse for us?
I mean, what if there's 200 dudes with, AR-15s? You could buy those, right? And they all put Metallica shirts on and they want to go fight in Iraq. They can't do that. They're not allowed.
You're right. They're not allowed. But I think in the situation of if they were all if 200 of them were to just show up on a battlefield, I think it would honestly come down to
on fucking motorcycles.
Oh my god.
On Harley Davidson.
I feel like there needs to be a movie made of this.
Oh god, that'd be so dumb.
It'll be called the Metallica Battalion?
Medallion?
Battalion?
Oh, jeez Louise. Okay, so
but no, like,
essentially we're saying, yes, the government should be allowed to make laws to keep people safe.
Yeah, and like I said, it goes back to if you really wanted to do something that the government was saying you can't do, like, you could still do it, but it's like you just have to face those repercussions. And a lot of those times those repercussions can be death or getting seriously injured. So
on a side note,
is it really worth it?
Do you think it's the government's duty to like idiot-proof things, to make things so simple that everyone can handle it? Or do you think that it's their duty to progress us forward and keep those people who can't keep up behind?
So I don't think it's a matter of so I do think we should progress moving forward, right? I don't think
even if everyone can't handle it?
Well, what I think you should do is you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So you should always
unless you get rid of the link.
Well, but I would argue that another way to do that is instead of catering to the weak, put them on your shoulder and like help them get the things that they're not getting or be better people or be stronger, whatever it is. But the second that you just start catering to all the weak people, well, that's not right. It's the same thing I feel about some of the stupid warning labels you see on things. Coffee being the big one. You get coffee. Yes. It's careful. Coffee's hot, right?
But I actually recently came to my attention that when laws are made in general, they're made to the lowest denominator.
Right.
So, meaning, here's an example, okay? I was driving by a school, and you have those little signs that bring you down to 15 miles an hour when you're driving in a school zone. At least in Arizona, that's how we do it.
Yeah.
So, as I was driving, I had a passenger with me, and I told them, I was like, this is the stupidest thing ever, because I focus 100% of my energy on staying under 15 miles an hour, because it's actually kind of difficult. Even if you leave your foot, at least my vehicle, if I take my foot off the gas, it wants to just go more than 15 miles an hour. Okay. So I have to like keep it under that. So I told the person, I was like, I literally did not watch the road at all while I was going 13 miles an hour. Like, it's stupid. And they were older than me. And they said, well, you realize that it's made that way. It's not for the drivers. It's so that people can get out of the way of a vehicle within enough time.
Interesting.
The law is made for the pedestrians, not for the drivers.
Right.
Or so a parent or an adult could grab a kid real quick. 15 miles an hour is really slow.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I always thought that it was for the drivers, but it's made to the lowest denominator, the lowest factor in the equation, which is the unaware person.
Right. Well, and so that makes sense to me. Like, I understand writing the laws that way. I think it's just the issue that I have is I feel like there's no, like, red line, right? There's nowhere where it's like if you cross it, it becomes, okay, that's just too ridiculous. We're just willing to cater to like anything, you know?
Well, see, I think that they should take an engineer, a traffic engineer, who you can go to school to become, and they should find every road what the most efficient speed on that road is. So if you take into account all the turns on the road from point A to point B,
Right.
all the stop signs, and how many lanes there are, what speed keeps the traffic moving at the best consistency. And every single road would be different. There wouldn't be a common speed limit.
Right.
Every road would have its own speed limit to keep it maximum efficiency. And then from there, the pedestrians, it's on their own. You have some personal responsibility to stay out of the way. If I could run a city, that's how I would choose to do it. I think that is better. However, you would have people getting run over because a lot of people are just blissfully unaware.
Yeah, I mean, you do, but I think the reason why you would have a lot of people get run over, and this is the thing that I don't agree with, is how pedestrians always have the right of way.
Always.
Right? And I get that to an extent, I do, but at the
Even when they make a mistake.
Exactly. And that's the part that bothers me. So I can't tell you, and I'm sure you've seen this too, I can't tell you how many countless times I'm on a main road where the speed limit's anywhere from 45 to 55, and you'll see somebody crossing in the middle of the road when there's a crosswalk 20 feet away from them, you know,
Right.
but they don't want to wait for it, right? So in cases like that, where jaywalking is already illegal, but if I hit this person because I'm going 45 to 55 miles an hour and it's much harder for me to stop, all of a sudden it becomes my fault and not the pedestrians.
It's funny you say that because I fucking hate jaywalking so much. It bothers the hell out of me. If I was ever a police officer, I swear I would only give out tickets for jaywalking.
Yeah.
I would be the most jaywalkingest, ticketest motherfucking cop, dude.
Yeah.
My quota would be through the roof. They would be like, oh my God, this guy gives out so many jaywalking tickets. None of us have to do this anymore. Everyone at him, I would pop them. I already will yell at people.
Yeah.
I find it to be like my duty to be like, hey, stop doing that.
Right.
Because here's the thing. Here's why I hate it so much, okay? Because you would think, well, Matthew, it has nothing to do with you. You just drive on and that person takes their risk, and what's the big deal to you, right? What bothers me about it is that, like you said, if that person makes a mistake, if they fuck up and they judge something wrong and they get hit, I don't care that that person got hit. And I don't think that person cares that they got hit. They accept that as a repercussion for what they're doing.
Right.
They're okay with the chances that they're going to get hit.
But you're not
What
willing
I
to
hate-
accept that. Yeah.
Well, what I hate is the person who hit them, now you fucked up their life. Now they have to go through the court system. They have to prove that they are innocent, even though that's not how America's supposed to work. They, nowadays, in the world we live in, have to prove they weren't doing anything wrong when they were driving.
Right.
Now you've fucked up this entire person's life. It's fucking selfish. That's why I don't like it.
I agree.
I could care less if you're willing to get hit by a moving piece of iron. That's fine. That doesn't bother me at all.
But in the end, you're not getting blamed. I am.
Exactly.
You know?
Or the
Yeah.
person that hit you is.
Yeah, that's what I
like,
mean.
same thing with I don't care if you speed. I speed all the time. It's fine. Whatever. It's not you who I care about when you get in a wreck. It's the person that you hit.
Yeah.
It's not their fault. They weren't choosing to speed.
Right.
You know, you're infringing on their rights, which is not what you're supposed to do in this country.
Yeah.
That's what bothers me a lot.
No, I agree with you thoroughly. Especially with driving, there's so many wonky driving rules like that. I mean,
It
kind of
only
going.
takes a second, and
Yeah.
your life is like
Well,
totally different.
It's going back to like the school zone thing too, right? You know, I understand that the law is there for the pedestrians, so the pedestrians can get out of the way faster, whatever it is. But there's also that process of what you were talking about, where you're kind of constantly looking down at your speedometer to make sure you're not going past 15.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
And you have to, because there's a zero tolerance in school zones. So I've literally had a friend who got pulled over for doing 17 and a 15 once.
It's no joke, yeah. And it's
You know?
$250 bucks. Boom.
Yeah, it's an expensive ticket. So it's like things like that. It's like I feel like there needs to be leeway. As I said, I don't think pedestrians deserve the right, maybe in school zones, but as far as like the jaywalking shit and everything, it's like no. The fact that me, who's going 55 miles an hour, is expected to see you and somehow not hit you when you're breaking the law, and somehow it's going to end up being my fault. That's not right. That's
Well,
not
and
right at all.
again, I mean, we do have a court system for that reason. Like
Yeah,
that is
true.
why you get your day in court. And I'm sure a lot of those cases that people do not get away with it, but they don't get, a lot of jail time or prison, or their life isn't
Right.
totally ruined.
And I
If
agree.
someone jumps out in front of you, they're not going to throw you in prison for 20 years.
Yeah, no,
but
sure.
they could. They could.
Yeah, if that pedestrian's got a good enough fucking lawyer.
They totally could.
Absolutely.
So that's just the thing is, I don't know. Yeah, I think a lot of people agree that you shouldn't be able to affect someone else in your decisions. You
Yeah.
make any decision you fucking want, but you can't affect other people's lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless they consent to it, then you can.
And going back to the question as far as the government being responsible for keeping them safe, I'd say responsible for warnings, but if people want to ignore those warnings, they'll fucking ignore the warnings.
I think the government is responsible for keeping us safe from other
yes,
governments
that's a
and
good way to put
other
it.
countries, I guess, other entities.
And from
it's
our own, honestly,
really-
that's the whole thing with guns.
It's not the government's responsibility to keep us safe from ourselves. That's
Yeah.
our responsibilities to do that. That's just a personal responsibility.
So that actually brings up an interesting question I have for you.
Oh, sure.
So, did you ever watch the show Futurama at all?
I love Futurama.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
So you know how they had suicide booths in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's actually a gentleman, I can't remember where, but there is a gentleman that created one of these
Oh my
things.
goodness, Adam.
And I'm dead serious.
Jesus. People are going to listen to this.
Well, Well, it's not like it's on street corners or anything just yet. But he
Right.
is an advocate for getting them on street corners and offering a very humane way for people who truly want to end their life to be able to end it, and maybe not get it on street corners, but have it accessible to people. And I was just curious if you feel that the government shouldn't have any say in that kind of stuff. Should any kind of place like that be allowed to exist where somebody can go and humanely end their life?
Adam, that's so heavy, bro. That's like 1,000,000 pounds of heaviness.
It could be the future, though, man.
Fuck. Okay. I think you have the right to end your own life if you want to end your own life. Mm-hmm. I think it's very, very sad.
Yeah.
I think that it's a very selfish thing to do because I think it affects a lot of other people. And I've also heard many times from different stories of people who have tried, who've been close to me, that when they do try, they're always very thankful that they failed.
Right.
Like as soon as they're in the act, as they're falling, they wish they hadn't have jumped. Almost always.
Right.
With that said, you are your own person, and you have the right to take your own life if you want to. I think that we should invest a lot heavier in psychology booths, in here's someone to talk to booths, love booths. I don't think we should jump right to here's a tool to help you do the worst case scenario.
Well, that's the core of the question here. So it's not necessarily the question of if people should be allowed to end their own life or not. It's the question of should places like that should the government intervene and say you can't have a place you can go into and commit suicide, or is that something the government should stay out of?
Dude, it's a lot. It really falls into a similar thing of like abortion to me. That, yeah, there should be a place where you can go and humanely and safely do that.
But
But do I want anything to do with it personally?
Well, of course not.
Absolutely not. Does it
course not.
disgust me personally? Yes. Am I very, very sad for those people and wish we could help them in any other way possible? Absolutely.
right.
But if you're talking about the scenario of 100% this person has made the choice and they're doing it, there is nothing else I can possibly do to help them.
Right.
At 10 o'clock tonight, they are doing it either fucking way. Then yes, I think you have a human being right. You have a human right to a comfortable passing of life. You should be allowed to die comfortably. Yes.
Well,
If that's your choice.
interesting. Well, I'm the same as you. I hope nothing like that comes to be.
Me too, man. That would really, in my
but-
opinion, that would be so many big steps backwards.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another example, but there's a lot of them. It's the thing of you don't give someone the tool to fail so that they fail quicker.
True.
You give them the tools to succeed so that they can work hard to succeed.
Yeah.
It's not like you're bad at running, so let me just break your legs so you never fucking run again.
Right, exactly.
Let's work out, let's get stronger, and let's make you a better runner.
Yeah.
You're never going to be the greatest, but you can be better than what you are. You know what I mean?
And I agree with you.
Maybe you'll never be the happiest fucking person alive.
Right.
That's fine, but we can make you a lot happier than you are now.
Yeah, and something like that too is even hard because like you compared it to like the issue of abortion, right?
Well, because they're both taking a life.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the only.
No, and
I hesitated to compare the two.
No, but I know what you mean though. But like, but even in the case of like abortion, you know, as I'm somebody who's against it also, but I do believe that there are some very rare instances where I think abortion is okay, whether it's rape or because
but I hate that argument because I don't think that you should be able to selectively tell people. I think it's either an on switch or an off switch.
Right, but I mean that's
I understand the argument.
Right, but that's what I was saying. Like the gray area would be with something like a suicide booth, is because there's no really contingency of like, oh well, I understand. You know, like, oh, this makes sense of why you'd want to kill yourself. There's just nothing out there like that. So I don't know. I hope something like that never comes to be.
I don't think it's the government's responsibility to keep me from hurting myself. I don't think that they should have anything to do with that.
I agree.
They have much bigger things to worry about and other things that I have no control over that they need to have control over. I can handle myself.
That's why I get so bothered with how much politics, especially the left side right now, focuses on making sure nobody's offended or nobody's, you know, getting hurt, their feelings hurt, whatever it is. Because just as you said, it's not the government's responsibility to make sure.
Well, I don't even think it's the government's responsibility to keep the bullies out of school.
Right. I don't either.
I don't think that, you know, I don't think it's the government's responsibility to keep the children skinny.
No.
I don't think that they should be taking foods out of schools. Right. I understand it. You know, am I right? Am I moving to Canada because of it? No. Right. I get it. Of course, we want society to be healthier starting at a younger age.
But you can't tell people be healthy, you know.
I like the plan that we're putting in place, but I think the responsibility of it should be on the shoulders of the parents, not on the shoulders of the school. The institution is there to teach your children, not to feed your fucking children.
Well, it's funny. I saw a funny meme the other day that really resonated, and it was very funny. But the first panel of it was two parents holding up like their kid's homework to their kid and had an F on there, and they were yelling at their kid, and it said like 1990 something, right? And then the next panel was like said now, and it was that same clip, but the parents were holding it up to the teacher and yelling at the teacher that there was an F. And that's really what you have right now. And it's so unfortunate. And just as you said, it's just because there's become more and more pressure put on schools and everybody's so quick to point their fingers and say, well, it's their fault that my kid got an F, or it's their fault that my kid's a bully, or whatever it is. You know, and I think that's because of the climate we live in right now, where everybody's trying to stop each other from offending each other. It's like, you need to be offended. It's what gives you a harder shell, you know?
There's some continuity to that. There's some actual sustenance there that you do need to kind of go through those harder times as a kid because it builds character. They joke about it, say, oh, it puts hair on your chest, you know. Right. But it really does. It truly actually builds character. Yeah. It turns you into the person who you're going to be. Well, it lets you practice things like mercy and at a young age. Yeah. You know, and see, are you going to be that kind of person or not?
Yeah. When I look at it as the same way as like failure, right? You know, any successful person will say that success doesn't come without failure, and it's because you're given those obstacles that you have to overcome. Yeah. But and sometimes especially when you're super young, the only obstacle you may have is just something like getting good grades, or you have a bully. You know, and the way that you get stronger is overcoming those.
Absolutely, because as soon as that structure is taken away, as soon as your bumpers are taken out of the aisle and you have to bowl on your own, you know, when you're out of school, they melt down, they fall apart. Yeah. Because there's people out in the world who have had to struggle, and those people are going to eat the weak people alive. Yeah. They're just going to. Not, you know, literally, metaphorically. They're going to make more money than the weak people are. They're going to... They're going to raise healthier families than the weaker people are. So unless everyone is on the same page of how much luxury we're going to give ourselves,
Right.
No, don't expect to work less hard and get to where someone else got.
I agree.
That's not how life works.
I agree.
Even nature's pretty brutal, bro.
Oh,
like when
yeah.
you go like actually out into a forest or a jungle, it's beautiful at first glance, but if you really look down, like animals go through some shit. The ones that survive, they're usually fucked up. They're missing an eye. They're missing a few toes.
True,
they got some scars, but they're still living.
They're still living.
That's just how life is, dude.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we live in such a climate now where we're just trying so hard to take those things away. And just as you said, especially when you're focusing on taking them away during your 13 years of school, and then you get out, it's like, okay, well,
I think it's okay to get punched in the face as a kid.
Yeah.
I think that it builds character.
I do.
I think that you should be allowed to talk shit on the playground, and then it will police itself. When the kid gets too mouthy, the other kids will tell him to shut up, and if he doesn't, they'll make him shut up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No one's going to get murdered on the fucking playground, guys.
Yeah.
Like, our parents did it this way, and they're fine.
It's okay to get hit.
Like, you can get a bloody nose, and you're going to wake up the next day, and you're going to be stronger. You're going to be fine. You're probably going to be friends with the guy who did it.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
that's how you build those bonds. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of going away nowadays.
I do too. I just hope it's for the better, but I just don't think it is. What else do we got here for this?
Oh, here's a fun one. This is another real simple one. So, what is a miracle that happens every day?
A miracle that happens every day.
Yeah.
Waking up.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
No.
I guess that's the first thing each day, huh?
I mean, I guess it's the first thing that happens, right?
You know what's always fascinated me is like seeds that sprout into saplings, like little plants. I always thought that the process of like the seed soaking up a few beads of water and then just like everything that little sapling needs to become a little green branch with 2 leaves on it. All the energy, everything it needs is in this little bitty seed. It's all already in there.
Right.
And it just soaks up some water and it's poof. It fucking breaks open and this thing just... And then plants in general, like it's always fascinated me, new growth on a plant. Like that leaf was not there yesterday.
Right.
The plant didn't chew anything. It didn't like eat anything the way a human eats. It just soaked up sunlight and soaked up nutrients through a sponge that's underneath it, that's the roots. And through that, pushed out new physical matter. That's incredible to me. I don't know.
So that's a miracle to you? That happens every day?
That's kind of a miracle to me that happens every day.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like seeds fucking sprouting and like leaves being formed on a tree in such a short amount of time. You can never grow an arm in a day. No fucking way. But a tree can grow a leaf in a day.
I always that's a fantastic answer, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
But when I think of miracle, and maybe what I'm about to describe, maybe miracle is too strong of a word, but I always think, kind of going back to waking up, I really do think sleep and like what the act of sleeping and like your body and how it reacts to things is all a miracle that happens every day. Because like I can go through...
Dude, the human body is definitely interesting.
Yeah. Well, what always amazes me is I'll wake up, I usually eat just shovel junk food in my face all day.
Fuck yeah.
I'm usually smoking a lot of cigarettes, putting in a lot of sugars in my body, not exercising, not stretching. A lot of times...
You sound like the picture of health, my friend.
Well, definitely
it's
not.
funny because you would never notice it looking at you.
No,
you look pretty
of course
healthy.
not. But I definitely do not feel healthy.
Oh boy.
But one thing that amazes me is all it takes is like, so what I'm getting is like by the end of that day, I'm usually feeling pretty shitty.
Pretty garbage.
Pretty garbage. Yeah. And then, but it's nothing that just like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Can't fix.
Isn't it crazy?
Because I always wake up, I don't feel like I have like a raspiness to my voice from the smoking. My lungs don't feel like they're hurt as much.
Dude,
I don't feel like I have food
smoking.
sitting in my stomach. I feel fantastic. And the second I have that first cigarette or that first thing of sugar,
It goes right back to bleh.
Exactly.
I know sometimes at night when you smoke, I call it my goodnight cigarette. I'm getting older nowadays. I'm not old yet. I still get away with it, but I'm getting older and I'm starting to feel some of the repercussions of smoking.
Right.
Okay. And I'm only 26, guys. It doesn't take too long. So at night, I'll have my chest will start to kind of hurt. You know what I mean? Not like physical, like you got punched in it, but there's a burning to it.
Like you've been smoking cigarettes all day.
Like you've been inhaling smoke all day.
Yeah.
And I think like, oh fuck, sometimes you don't even get through the whole thing.
Yeah.
You go to bed and the next morning,
you're ready.
That shows how much your body can repair overnight, dude. You're like fucking Wolverine. Because the next day, you're ready to go. You enjoy that first cigarette. It's beautiful.
Usually when I try to start like the first day of setting off like a health kick or whatnot, where it's like I'll try to go 24 hours without having a cigarette or eating healthy, whatever it is. Like I always will try to do it like 3-4 hours before I go to bed, like start it there, because then I know not only am I getting that 4 to 5 hours before going to bed, but now I'm getting that 7 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
And hopefully waking up craving it less than I would have normally from just having one right before I go to bed. You know what I mean? So, but sleep is definitely a miracle to me, because you can be having because not even aside from like the health thing of how you might feel when you were waking up, you could be having the worst day in your fucking life, but it's nothing that sleep can't cure.
It's true. Isn't it true? Sleep is amazing. You physically change when you're asleep. Your not your veins.
Your brain kind of drains. It's got fluid all built up and shit.
Well, your arteries and the system that passes the blood through you. So your veins and your arteries and whatnot, and the capillaries in your body, they actually expand like up to 3 times larger while you're asleep to allow more blood flow to go through. And blood is what carries nutrients and shit to cells all around your body to help you heal and create new skin. If you get a cut on your arm, it won't heal if the blood flow is cut off to it. It has to get blood to it. I recently learned that that's what happened with my teeth.
Oh yeah?
When you get a root canal, they take the root out. Well, the root is literally I'm going to use the word artery or vein, but that's the wrong word.
Right.
But it is the system that brings the blood to your tooth. Your tooth is actually alive.
Right.
So when you take that system away and the blood can't get to it, your tooth becomes brittle and it falls apart. Yeah, it actually needs the blood circulation to keep the new cells growing.
That makes sense.
The whole point I was trying to make is that happens all over your body while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
3 times as much as when you're awake. And you actually burn the most calories of your entire day while you're sleeping.
Yeah,
a lot of people say don't eat before bed. I've never really been able to figure out why people say that. Because in my opinion, being the amazing dietitian I am, I'll tell you what, the best time to eat is right before bed. Yeah, you burn it off the quickest.
I was gonna say I've literally gone to get food, eaten it, and then immediately gone to bed afterwards, and I still wake up feeling great.
Oh, dude, you know a cool trick with coffee? So if you wake up in the morning or anytime, whatever, and you get a cup of coffee and you drink your cup of coffee, okay, and drink it in like 5 to 10 minutes, okay, and then if you're able to, if you take a nap right after you finish your coffee,
I've heard about
take like a 10 to 15 minute nap. When you wake up from that nap, you will be like you just drank a rock star. Yeah. Like you will have fucking crazy energy for a good hour or so. I've heard about that because it takes opens up the system that flows the blood and lets the caffeine get all over, gets to your brain quicker.
They say that's a good way to make sure too that like your cat nap actually is just that, a cat nap. So you drink coffee before it kicks in like 40 minutes and then once it kicks in, you're up and just as you said, you're up and ready. Yeah.
You feel great for a while.
Yeah, there's a lot of little tricks of the trade there. I mean, that kind of goes back to the conversation I was having with Justin a couple nights ago in regards to where I feel like a sort of vices that anybody has should be, in a perfect world, treated as a tool. So like you don't get truly the effects of the coffee unless you don't have the coffee anymore. You know what I mean?
No, I don't. What do you mean?
So, like, for example, when you're an avid coffee drinker like you and I, I would argue that when we quit drinking coffee, it's not that you feel like, I mean, you might feel like you have less energy at first, but then eventually your body's just going to plateau out again and get used to not having the caffeine.
Right.
Whereas I feel like when you introduce coffee now into your diet and you're having it every single day, well, the coffee's just, if anything, like your body now starts off lower and the coffee just gets you back to that average plateau that you would be at before. So it's like you're adding in a vice that you actually don't even need, you know?
So are you saying, I'm still not following. Are you saying that if you stop drinking coffee for a month, then on day 32, when you start drinking coffee again, you're going to feel it a lot more?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So that's tolerance.
Right.
Your tolerance goes away.
Right. So
yes,
what I'm saying
totally.
is, like, in the sense of like caffeine, you use it as a tool in the sense of you don't drink it at all, but then you have one night where you know you have to be up late doing a paper or homework or whatever.
I understand
That's
what
when
you're
you
saying
use the
now.
coffee. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. Do you think that can go further into all vices?
Yes.
Okay, so coffee's easy because it's socially acceptable.
Yes.
So then we'll take it a step up to alcohol. Obviously, alcohol can be used systematically to have a better
for social
time.
building, relationship building.
If you're out having a good time on a Friday night, Saturday night, Wednesday night, whatever, it could totally be a tool. It could be great. That's how a lot of people use it. Can we take it a step further?
Sure.
So what other vices can be good if only used at... What about cocaine?
Cocaine? Well, I think cocaine
cocaine can be selectively used?
Yeah, the same way that we selectively use, or we should be selectively using Adderall. Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
The same way that we selectively use meth and heroin also to treat people with injuries.
They sure do selectively use heroin. That's opiates.
Even cigarettes. So,
you think cigarettes have a function?
So nicotine actually has a function that, I mean, it's not good enough to smoke every day, obviously.
Right.
There's, the negative outweighs the positive.
Right.
But nicotine does react to your brain in a way that makes you focus a little harder. So
it's a stimulant.
Sure.
It is a stimulant. Yes.
So I listened to a lot of podcasts of comedians, and a commonality amongst a lot of these comedians is they don't smoke at all. They're not cigarette smokers at all. But like before they go on to do a set, they'll have a cigrette, because it will just kind of like hone in and get them to focus, and then get them ready when they go out there. And then once they get that little push, they'll grab that momentum and run with it for the rest of the show.
Curbs your appetite.
Curbs your appetite.
If you were in a country, this is actually used pretty often. If you're in a country where you don't eat every day, which is many of them around the world, tobacco use is used to curb hunger in between. So is spicy food, hot sauce. That's why a lot of poorer nations around the world use and highly regard spicy food and hot sauce.
That makes sense.
Is that it cuts off... It doesn't cut off, but it destimulates the nerves in your body that make you feel hungry.
Right.
So because you get that spicy sensation, that burny sensation, I've had customers. I used to work in a shop where we had hot sauce, and they were homeless, and they would come in and ask if they could have some because it curbs their appetite. It makes them not feel hungry.
Interesting.
And they want very, very spicy. They would just drink it. And of course, I always felt terrible when I would get them like a breakfast burrito or something. Like, here's some real food. But no, it's a common thing. It's free a lot of places. You can just grab the hot sauce, and it really does curb that sensation of being hungry.
Interesting. I've never heard of that before. But I mean, it makes sense. I look at any time I've had wings or whatnot, and usually by the third or fourth wing of that,
just the sauce alone,
the hot stuff I get, I'm usually like done. But
yeah, so things can be used selectively to enhance.
And I truly think that if you look at any vice that might be looked at negatively, you can find a positive as long as it's just used occasionally in moderation. Absolutely. But it's when you
another really good use for nicotine that a lot of people don't know about.
What?
Is it's an excellent natural pesticide.
Is it?
So yeah, bugs fucking hate it. Bugs hate nicotine.
Oh.
So yeah, you can actually. I have an uncle who's a botanist. No, I'm sorry, he's not a botanist. He's an arborist. He's a certified arborist.
What's the difference? A botanist is somebody is like a gardener,
is someone
isn't
who
it?
goes to school for botany, for growing plants. An arborist is someone who knows the scientific background of trees and plants.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think.
Okay.
They're different. I don't know. You have to be a certified arborist to sell contracts to the government.
Okay.
So he works for a landscaping company, and they
Right.
need him because he's the only one who can do city contracts.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
they need him. All right. So you make a lot of money when you're this.
Right.
But he taught me that his wife smokes and he does not, and he doesn't really like smoking. But he'll gather the butts from her cigarettes from the ashtrays, and he'll put them in water and let them soak overnight, and then he'll take that water and he'll spray it on the plants.
Interesting.
Because nicotine is from nature. Nicotine is a natural
Yeah.
chemical, so it doesn't like hurt you, or anything. You can still eat the plants, you can still eat the fruit off of it and stuff, but the bugs fucking hate it.
Oh, I never thought
Yeah,
about that
they
before.
won't go near it.
That makes sense, though.
I guess.
I mean,
I don't know what it is, but
it
it's
sounds
a
like
really
it would
good
make sense.
pesticide.
I wouldn't know either way.
Works
But
great.
yeah, but I mean, yeah, I truly think you can take any vice and take the negative and turn to a positive as long as it's used in moderation. And then I can argue with any healthy vice too. Those can be, if those aren't done in moderation also, those can also be start to have their negative effects.
What about like chronic masturbation?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Do you think that could be healthy?
No,
In any way?
absolutely not.
No way.
No.
It doesn't have any healthy function to it.
No. Well, and even so, and this even goes on with like some of the diets, right? And I think we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, where there are people that will, like keto, for example, right? They'll get really into keto. Yeah, just for example. So they'll get really into keto and they'll start eating certain foods because it's keto, but they'll get stuck to just eating like the same 3 meals over and over again because whether it's easy or they just like it, whatever it is.
Like ground beef and squash in a pan every day of the week.
Yes.
I don't know anyone who ate that.
Oh, it's so good though. But now you can do that at first, but the problem with doing that after a while, what a lot of people get into and why some of them, their diets start to fail them, is because by eating those same things every day, there are other nutrients that other foods offer that you're not getting now.
Sure.
So you're still technically on the diet, but you're not getting the kind of nutrients that your body needs.
You know what I always used to do, or when I'm eating really healthy, like when I do get on those kicks, is I try not to eat the same thing twice in a row.
Yeah,
so
that's a good way to do it.
If I have, chicken one day, then I'll try to eat more of a vegetable the next time I have a meal.
Right.
And then if I had a lot of vegetable, if I had a big salad, then I'll try to not have so much. Maybe I'll have some fruit or some dairy in the next one. Or I just try to never eat like the same food section of the pyramid. I try not to eat the same section twice in a row.
That's a good way to go about it.
You know that you're at least always getting different things in. Kind of like I took a lot of influence from the color diet. I really like the concept of the color diet.
Yeah.
I don't think that it works to lose weight. I don't think it's a lose weight kind of diet.
No.
But I do think that it is a healthy lifestyle kind of diet. If you already have a healthy body, I think you can follow the color diet and stay pretty healthy.
Yeah, well, and I think it would work the best in conjunction with one of the diets, right? So if you were doing keto, but then you were trying to do at least make sure you're getting all the colors of the rainbow into
the color diets, you just eat different colors every day.
Yeah,
so one day you do green, next day you try to get as much blue things, then red, yellow. You just do the different colors.
No, I agree. They're all just exercises just to make sure that you're switching up the meals that you're eating and everything, because I think that's a lot of the holes people get stuck in.
My issue with the color diet specifically, really following it, is just on days that are not green or like yellow or orange, all the other days are just so high in sugar. Because anything red, or like the darker you get, generally speaking, the sweeter the thing is. I've just found. So as you try to get into those darker colors, you're just getting so much natural carbs and sugar that it's almost like an overload. I don't know. There's no like actual sustenance to a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, but there can be also like when I think of red, right, I would think of like red bell peppers or red meat, right, things like that. When you're getting into purple, I would think of like eggplant, which has a lot of good nutrients in it, as well as like I don't know. I feel like if you went to like maybe not your typical grocery store, but if you went to maybe like a Whole Foods or a Sprouts somewhere that just had a more selection of produce,
True.
I think you could find things that maybe you've never even heard of that fit along those kind of color spectrums, you know what I mean? That aren't
sure
like sugary or
could.
carby.
Well, and when I say sugary, I mean like natural sugar.
Right.
You know
Carbs,
what I mean?
just high in carbs.
Because red day, you always go for an apple. Mm-hmm. I mean, fucking apple. They're garbage. They're delicious, but they're fucking garbage. Apple a day, keeping the doctor away, it's bullshit, guys.
Yeah.
Apples are garbage.
There's no reason.
But they're very tasty.
Very tasty. But and really, as far as the carb stuff goes, that's really just if you're doing something like a keto diet, just as you said. As long as you're eating, all the diets really come down to like a couple main things, and that's like don't eat fucking added sugars and eat whole foods, right? As long as you're doing those two things, you're probably going to be fine. You're probably going to be healthy. But
I think you can eat nothing but sugar if you intermittent fast a lot.
Well, as far as weight's concerned, absolutely. But as far as maybe mental health is concerned, I would argue no.
That's true. Yeah, you would become super depressed.
I think a lot of people constantly just think of like the weight loss thing, which is normal. I get that. But
when you say dieting, people definitely think weight loss. But that's not always the case, though.
Right. Well, especially with
sometimes
me.
it's weight gain.
Yeah.
Or trying to build muscle.
Or in my case, just as you said, if you would look at me, you would never think I shoveled junk food in my mouth every day. But I do, and I definitely feel it mentally also. There's a difference.
Well, for me and you, it's more of like a lifestyle choice than it is a health choice.
Yeah.
We're pretty healthy people either way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We're just blessed with bodies and lifestyles that are active enough that we don't tend to overindulge. Yeah. We just don't tend to get real fat.
That's true.
But we still can benefit from a healthier diet.
Absolutely.
In that it can make our muscles stronger.
Mm-hmm.
It can make our brains stronger. I know that when I eat better, even if I don't exercise, I don't wake up as stiff in the morning.
Yeah.
Like my back. Not my crotch.
Thanks for clearing that up.
I know, that's where I went. But yeah, I feel better all around when I eat better. So I feel like it doesn't have to be, you could be on a diet and not be trying to lose weight. And you still are totally justified saying I'm on a diet.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely understand that. But I don't know, diets are a great thing. I hope to talk about diets more at a time when I'm a little more healthy than what I am currently living.
I mean, I'm pretty gorgeous, man. I don't know. I'm on a very strict QT donut and Starbucks double shot energy.
Oh my gosh. I
diet.
eat so much pizza, guys. Pizza and burgers is basically my diet, but it's so good. But anyways, we already had a dieting podcast.
True.
What else?
Did.
What else do we got?
We did. Let's see here. Oh, that's the same question again. What is the purpose of art in society?
Well, nowadays to make money. By fucking
I don't know.
far.
I feel like if you really want to make money, art's not the first thing you go into.
No, maybe not. I think I don't think anybody who, as far as I think it branches off. So I do think you have people who stay true to their art, and I think you have the other people who branch off and like go the money making route. But I think it all starts in one place.
I think it's a flex.
You think it's a flex?
I think it's a flex of human beings in general, like our entire species. I think any time that a human makes art, it's our species flexing. Okay. In that art doesn't actually do anything to help.
It's just look
your
what I
day-to-day
did.
life.
Yeah.
It's literally look at how I took resources and used them in a totally unuseful way, but you still like it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Look how I wasted essential resources, but made it look really beautiful. Yeah. It's total flex.
I mean, you're right. At its core, that is what it is. But
even like architecture, it's beautiful and can be a little wasteful, but you still live in the building afterwards. Yeah. You don't need a castle with 100 rooms in it, but if you built that, you could fill all 100 rooms and house people in it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas art, if you make a painting, you literally can't eat it. You can't, like, it's as good as firewood, is as far as it goes in actual usefulness for surviving.
True, but I mean, I could argue that. I mean, you're right. As far as like practical uses, there are
Zero.
none, you know. But I think for emotional uses, I think art is important for sure. I think it exercises the mind. People who go and try to interpret somebody's art piece, especially the art pieces out there that have, you know, like little Easter eggs hidden in them that you have to find, things like that.
But nothing else has developed the capacity to create any kind of art. Even simplistic. I mean, I get that we have different lobes and shit. I understand our brain is bigger than a lot of other things. But nothing else has even gotten close. There's no animal that makes smiley faces.
Well, true, but I mean, I don't know. I just still think it's important. Why did you want me to paint you a picture? Right?
Because it means something to me.
Oh,
the picture,
exactly. And that's why I think
the actual object in the picture means something to me.
Right, but I think that's why art is important, to have those pieces that mean something to you that you can look back on and get whatever it is from it, comfort or...
Yeah, but you can still get those feelings from other things. You can look into your baby's eyes when
True.
you have a baby and get all those feelings.
True.
You can look at, you know, your dead father as they're burying him, you know, in a cave. I'm thinking like a caveman society here.
Right.
And you can get those feelings. So there's natural things that will bring you all the emotions. Art will. It's just art allows you to feel those emotions on a whim's notice. You can look at it whenever you want and get that emotion.
But I think that's why I think that's why art holds such an important staple in our society, though, because of just, as you said, you can look at a piece of art and on a whim just get those feelings.
Yes.
But now, all of a sudden, let's say you have this painting up, like some painting up there that maybe at face value, glancing at you would never think would create an emotional response in you at all. And then all of a sudden you're walking by, you take a look at it, and all of a sudden you get that emotional whim. But it's an emotional whim that I don't feel, that maybe Justin doesn't feel looking at it, but you do for some reason. And that's why art is so cool to me.
Well, and it changes over time as you grow as a person.
Yeah.
There's something, when I looked at some art as a kid, I didn't fucking care at all. And now going back as an adult, I can see things in it and appreciate things about it and have feelings towards it that I didn't even know when I was a kid.
That happens to us a lot with music. You and I have had a few discussions about bands that we listen to.
Dude, there are entire bands now, like Breaking Benjamin.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I always enjoyed them, but I was always like, yeah, I don't get why anyone's their biggest fan. You know, now I go back and I love all of their songs.
Yeah.
They all tell a story that I've been through. Like The Cure is another one where as a kid they were cool, they were rock and roll, whatever, but I was never like into them. Now I can go back and listen to it and be like, holy shit, I felt these things before.
Like you get it
like,
now.
Yes.
I totally get that.
So I think art is the same way. As you get older, you start to recollect more on experiences you've already had rather than think about experiences you're going to have.
Right.
You know, there's more things behind you than there is in front of you at a certain point in your life.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think art can become a lot more special because it can help you to recollect those things.
Yeah, I agree. But one thing that does bother me with art is, especially the ones that are, you know, the pompous ones that are making millions upon millions upon millions on these art pieces. And then what do? You walk into their gallery and this is called Blue Square. You know, it's a 20-inch by 20-inch blue square, you know, and people are like, I'll pay $25 million for it to put it in my bathroom.
Yes.
You know, just stupid shit. There was I don't know if you heard about this, but about a year ago, there was something really, it was like a little social experiment that this person did where they were in like some pompous art gallery, right? And he took his glasses off and he set them on the floor right up against the wall, and people were coming over and taking pictures of it and with it because they thought it was part of an art piece. They thought it was some way this artist was doing to send a message or something. And it was just a guy that took off his glasses and set them on the floor up against the wall.
You can find meaning in anything.
You can find meaning in anything if you're looking for it. Absolutely.
You remember the Payless experiment? where they
so they
open up this
that was funny.
In like New York and LA and big cities, guys, there's this thing that's like pop-ups. So what it is, you'll have like a pop-up restaurant, or you have a pop-up club, so it's a business establishment that only exists for like one day to maybe like a week at the longest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're called pop-ups. So they had a shoe store pop-up that these guys did. And
very
they set it
pompous,
all up,
expensive
made it
one.
look super bougie, super chic, okay? And they took a bunch of Payless shoes that were less than like $15 each.
Yep.
And they put them up with like $1,000 price tags, $600 price, $2,500 price tags.
Yeah.
And people were literally trying to buy the shoes, and they had to tell the people before they actually bought it, we can't take the money for that because these are just Payless shoes. It's just an experiment. But they literally would have made thousands of dollars reselling Payless shoes.
Well, and here's what's funny too.
Don't do that, by the way. I don't think it's legal.
Don't do that. But here's what was funny also is you had these people that were going in there willing to spend, $1,000+ on these pairs of shoes. And what were they doing? They were putting on these $5 high heels and going, wow, they're so comfortable and look how stylish they are.
And then to the point that when they told them they were Payless shoes, they didn't believe it. They were like, no, they're not. There's no way this is a Payless shoe. I know shoes. And they showed them like recording of them buying it at Payless, and they're like,
leather and everything.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Dude, it's horrible. I don't think they had one person who was like, okay, there's something like not right about these shoes.
No, every
single person was doing that shit.
It all comes down to status, dude. With human beings, status is important to us.
Well, and that's what bothers me a lot about the art industry, because and that's why I was talking about the two different branches, because there definitely is a branch of people who stay true to their own personal art.
I think so.
And then there's another one that gets involved in that kind of like pompous art making of like, it's a white square, but it represents tyranny in America. Like
art is a very real thing. Yes. There are people who are just incredible at creating pieces of art, and it doesn't have to be paintings. It could be anything. Some people are truly gifted.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is mumbo jumbo bullshit.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
That's how I feel about a lot of, I think we just talked about this a few days ago, about Van Gogh,
Yes.
When you can take a painting that looks like a child.
I mean, every industry has it though.
Yeah.
You go to Wall Street, and most people just follow the crowd. They don't know what the fuck to invest in or what they're doing. But there are Warren Buffetts out there who are they're savants. They're amazing at what they do. Yeah. But most of us in life, we're faking it till we make it, baby.
Faking it until we make it, man. Good way to end it. Just fake it until you make it, guys. That's how you.
Oh my gosh, we're up for today.
We are up for today. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening. Remember, you can find us on all the social media networks, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We have some fun things coming your way, guys. We have another update video coming your way, so stay tuned for that if you made it to the end of this. And any final thoughts, Matthew?
I try not to think too much.
All right. Well, there you go.
I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye.